Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kat. I am the Boston Posher over on Instagram and Poshmark, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am talking about something that I have talked about before on my Instagram page, but I wanted to do a YouTube video about it, and that is basically being a college reseller. I want to kind of tell you how I manage it, the tips I have just to kind of do all the crazy things that school and reselling require. There are obstacles that come with all forms of reselling, whether you're full-time, part-time, a mom being a reseller, a couple being a reseller. There are challenges with all of it, but the challenges that I personally know are being part-time and doing it in college. So I want to do a college reseller video and give other resellers in college just tips to make it doable. So before I kind of get into my tips, there's a question that I would have for anybody watching, and that is, as a college reseller, how do you want reselling to show up for you? Do you want it to be kind of a low stakes, low effort, low work thing that's kind of on the side and makes extra cash every once in a while? Or would you like it to be more of like a stable, growing, consistent cash flow type of job? Because if it's something that you want to have like minimal effort and stuff, which isn't a bad thing at all, this video is probably going to be a little bit not as appealing to you, just because this is kind of about how to do all the work that reselling requires with a college lifestyle. This video is geared towards people that are really trying to do reselling and make it like consistent. So if you figured out how you want reselling to show up for you, whether it's minimal effort or like a consistent thing, that's awesome. So the first tip I have for any college resellers is the most important thing to do is share your closet every day. And I know that's the most cliche piece of advice anyone that does Poshmark could give you, but it's so important to share your closet every day. And that's because when you share an item, it kind of goes to the top of that category. So for example, say you had a little black dress in your closet. When someone searches little black dress, they get the listings that have been shared most recently. So if you just shared your little black dress in your closet, when someone searches that, that's going to be the first listing that pops up, which is awesome because then that's a lot of exposure for you. However, people are constantly sharing their closet. So the more you do it, the better, but at least do it once every day. And I'm not perfect. There's so many times that I don't share it every day, but I do notice a lot more results when I am consistently sharing my closet. So that is the biggest piece of the biggest piece of advice I have. Share your closet every day. It will yield better results. Besides from sharing your closet every day, something I do every single day that makes my reselling life so much more manageable is I make a very specific to-do list. Not just like a standard like, do this, this, and this today, like very specific. So for example, say I want to list 5 items today. I'm not just going to write list 5 items with a checkbox and check that off when it's done. I'm going to write photograph 5 items, and then I'm going to list the items I want to photograph with a check mark next to each of them. Then once that's done, I'm going to say edit photographs for 5 items. Checkbox the 5 ones I want to edit. Then I'm going to say measure 5 items. 5 items, same thing. And I'm going to do that until I get to listing and say list 5 items. 5 items, and then that was the whole process. But when you have one checkbox versus like 25 checkboxes, you're so much more reinforced to do those little checkboxes because you feel that reward after every little step you do. So if you just take 5 photographs, you get a little checkbox. That's huge, and that's reinforcing. I'm a psych student, so I'm big on like motivation and reinforcement, and that's a huge reinforcer for me. So that really helps me, one, keep on track and see what I'm doing and see how far I'm getting. And if I don't get through everything today, I know what I have to do tomorrow. But also it just keeps me motivated and it keeps me going, because when you get to do those check marks, it's just such a little like, yeah, I did it. So that really helps me. And I think it could help you too. Even if it's as simple as share your closet 3 times a day, 3 times today, and then you did it once, did it twice, did it 3 times with check marks next to it. That's only 4 check boxes, but it gives you a little reward when you've completed each share. So it's huge, and I really do recommend it. Also, it keeps me accountable because sometimes I do this thing where like I say, oh, I'll share my closet 3 times. It's one little checkbox, and then I do it twice, but I'm like, well, I did share my closet, so I'll just do the check mark next to the did it 3 times even if I didn't. I don't know if everybody does that, but I have a huge problem with this. So if you're like that, I definitely recommend bringing it up into steps because it'll keep you accountable and it'll give you that little reward. My next piece of advice is to do your reselling work in batches, batch work. And I mean by this is that some of the things of reselling are kind of like environmentally limiting. For example, if you want to use natural light for your listings, you only have certain periods during the day where you can actually be photographing. So when you have that perfect lighting, do all your photographing, all your pictures at once. Don't worry about editing them, about measuring clothes, just do the pictures so that you have that done. And that way, when you are at night, you already have the pictures, so you can do listing or measuring or cleaning or whatever you have to do, but you have the pictures done. Pictures are sort of the key component to reselling. You need the pictures in order to show what you're doing. You can get by without measurements and stuff like that, but pictures are important. So prioritize taking the pictures, and make sure you're finding time within your week to get that perfect lighting that you like to work with, and then just do them all there. Don't try to do like a picture and then measure it and then type it all up and list it. No, just do a bunch of pictures at once, get it all done, and then, you know, at night edit them and measure and all that stuff. On the flip side of that, there's stuff that you can do basically anywhere. For example, listing. You can list anywhere as long as you have the information. So if you know you're going to be stuck on a bus for a while, or you know you have this like random chunk of time between classes but you can't go back to your home or your dorm, that would be a good time to list. So if you have all your information already with you or in your phone, you can just kind of pull up that information and going back and listing. And now that you have the draft feature, it's way easier. So stuff like listing can be done anywhere. So I would prioritize getting all the information and then list, you know, during all that other time you have. Of course, like list as soon as possible, but it's really good to have that extra step to do. Because say like you get to the end of the night, you've done so much stuff, you just want to go to bed. You know, as long as you have that information with you or in your phone, you can kind of do that anywhere. The last kind of thing I'm going to talk about is sourcing. Sourcing is a huge part of reselling. You need inventory. But in college, it's difficult because you don't have every day to go to the thrift store. You might not even be near a thrift store. So I have come up with a couple ways to kind of deal with those issues. One, you can source in your personal closet or even your friend's closet. If your friends aren't resellers and they have some clothes they want to give away, you could just say, hey, I could sell these for you. We could split the profit, something like that. You might not make a ton of money, but it's still something. So that's a great way to get inventory when you don't really have any supplies nearby. Another way to get inventory is to go to your local thrift store. So I am lucky enough to live in the city, so I do have a good amount of thrift stores around, and I do have a car. So I know that's kind of a special situation. If you don't have that, and say you are on a city campus, you can take a train or take a walk to a local thrift store. I bet you anything there's one within a couple miles of you. There usually is. So that's awesome if you're on a city campus. If you're not in a city campus, it can be harder to find a thrift store. So one thing I would recommend is just taking like one day a month or one day every couple of weeks and just kind of taking a local bus or a train to a city nearby and doing sourcing that day. You can kind of make it a day with your friends. You can bring them along, but you know, kind of stock up on inventory that day that can kind of last you throughout the month. So that's super helpful. I've had to do that before. I've had to just because my time is so, you know, busy sometimes, I've had to just go once, stock up on stuff, and just kind of slowly work through that throughout the month. And it does work. So if you are someone that's like 2 hours from any city, you know, find one day a month, on a weekend maybe, travel to a thrift store, get a bunch of stuff, bring it home, and kind of work through that throughout the month. I hope these tips are helpful for you guys. I am going to do a separate video showing you how I make a small space work, like a dorm room or a small bedroom, how to utilize the space most effectively, to take pictures, to store items, all that stuff. So I'll do that separately, but I hope as college resellers you found these tips helpful, and if you use any of these tips and you find success or you find them challenging, either way, I would love to hear. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you could like or subscribe or whatever you gotta do, I would appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day, guys!